was back in the 70s, 1975. See, I remember this. Robert Klein, comedian Robert Klein on SNL.
I can't stop my legs.
It's this crazy song, but ever since, see, I was how old? 75. I was 12. And to this day, I remember, I can't stop my leg. It's ridiculous. Robert Klein is a premier comedian, influenced Jay Leno, Billy Crystal, and a whole host of others. And now there's a documentary out called Robert Klein Still Can't Stop His Leg. Hello, Robert Klein. Jamie Ullman here. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing fantastically, and I will tell you right now that 99.5% of my audience, when I say, I can't stop my leg, know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm talking about Robert Klein. And really looking for...
I can't stop my leg. It's a stupid joke, but I've been doing it for so many years, and Marshall Klein, who directed this documentary, decided to use it as the title. You know, I once stayed up all night watching a poker game in St. Louis with Jack Buck and Dan Deardoff playing. I hung around with them all night, and I performed on that riverboat that permanently docked. Is it still there?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think you mean, is it the Admiral or the Goldenrod Showboat? Yeah.
No, it moved. It's moored there permanently. It's like a restaurant.
Yeah.
And PBS fundraiser there or something. And I always liked Deardoff. Offensive linemen are the most intelligent, I think, usually on a football team for some reason, until they get hit too many times. But I watched them play some high-stakes poker, and it was a lot of fun, and I always remember that.
I could just imagine.
It was funny.
It was
funny. It was a real St. Louis experience. And, of course, I was there last, I think I did a benefit. Bob Costas called. And when Bob Costas calls, I come, because he's a great guy. I love him.
We have really created some great guys in the sports entertainment industry, and boy, I could just imagine the stories you heard with Jack Buck and Darren Deardorff in the same room, for crying out loud. That's fantastic. So tell me about Robert Klein Still Can't Stop His Leg.
It was great to hang out with. It was so much fun. It was a total St. Louis night, I can tell you.
Yeah. Now, the Robert Klein Still Can't Stop His Leg documentary features some of the guys that actually you influenced, and one of them obviously would be Jay Leno, and I hearken back to a little bit where Billy Crystal one time teased Jay Leno and said, back when I knew you as a starving comedian, the only decoration you had in your apartment was a poster of Robert Klein.
That is correct. That was the last Jay Leno show, his last night as host of The Tonight Show. So how long ago is that? A year and a half, 2 years, whatever. And Billy was the guest, and he said, you had such a ratty apartment in Boston. We all used to crash there. You had only one piece of furniture, and you had one thing on the wall, the Robert Klein Child of the 50s poster. Leno, they all say wonderful things on this movie, and that was really the basis of the movie, why Marshall Klein, the director, got the idea that so many of these people had said publicly over and over again how I was their influence, a major influence in becoming a comedian. And so I said, when I heard those comments, we got to match it with some of my best material from the 9 HBO specials, from the hundreds of television appearances. And Leno said something really sweet. He said, in those days when you were living in rural Massachusetts and you want to go into comedy, and, your parents try to discourage you, and people come up to your mother and say, has Jay gotten over that comedy thing yet? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And they say, hey, you can point to Robert Klein. There he is. He's normal. He went to college, And when Jerry Seinfeld says, he was the Beatles to me, of comedy,
Yeah.
They're wonderful. And it's a funny movie. And occasionally there's some sentimentality. And it shows also, they followed me around quite a lot of my life as a geezer here in the lower Hudson River Valley, shopping in the Stop and Shop, squeezing tomatoes. So there's the non-show business part of me, and I love show business. I chose the right business. 52 years ago, in March of 65, the great Fred Willard and I reported for work in Chicago at Second City. And that's a long time to do one thing, and to be in show business. Not only one thing. I mean, I've been in over 40 movies and hundreds of television shows, 6 Broadway shows. I mean, I just had a ball, and I continued to enjoy to make people laugh. So what could be better? And one day, I'm going to get up there and babble is going to come out of my mouth, and they're going to carry me off the stage and put me in a home. And that'll be it, But I will have had a great time.
I love it, and you look great, and you still, I know, do your stand-up because you guys, that's what you thrive on. You love that audience. You love being with that live audience, and I think that's fantastic, too. And your Second City reference, man, I forgot all about that Fred Willard and you were graduates of that fantastic troupe. So what is it like, Robert Klein, to watch a documentary about yourself?
Yeah, it's really strange. It isn't strange to see my face on a big screen or a little screen. That I've seen for years. But to be the subject of the film, and for these substantial, successful, and talented people to say these substantial things about me, it makes me feel proud. I can't lie. I feel proud. I mean, they talk about it in the past tense.
Yeah.
And, not because I'm not working anymore, because they ask them, well, they're talking about he was to me this and that. So I'm a little like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. I hear my own eulogy while I'm still alive, and I can walk out, and I'm healthy. It's very heartwarming. And you know what it is? It's affirming that someone was listening out there. When Jerry Seinfeld says you shouldn't be afraid to be smart, I believe that most of my material can be understood by any intelligent 12-year-old. But the point is, I do like to work up. I like to use the language. I like to be intelligent, as well as silly. I Can't Stop My Leg is a silly song, and I like physical humor too. But, I try to be smart. I try to say what I think is funny. And, maybe I wasn't for everybody, or I'm not for everybody. But if I were to have thought about what my career would be like 40 years ago, what would it be like 40 years later? I don't think I could have painted it any better. I'm quite content. I made a fair amount of money. I don't know anything about money, but no one stole it from me, like has happened to so many people, show business and sports. I had honest people. Of course, my main house here is literally about 1.5 miles from Sing Sing Penitentiary. I'm serious. On the Hudson. So once a year I take my accountant for a trip around the wall. Just a little warning,
Yeah. I love it. Well, as much as I enjoyed your stand-up and have enjoyed your stand-up, I also really enjoyed, a while back, your sit-downs, meaning your sit-downs with Johnny Carson. Probably one of my favorite times and one of the highlights when I would watch TV is when Robert Klein sat down and traded sentences with Johnny Carson. Pretty amazing stuff. I always love those exchanges between you two.
Carson was the best. He was still great at it the day he retired. It's just that, times were changing. His viewership was diminishing a little, and they could pay Leno about 10% of what they're paying Johnny initially and get the same size audience. But I have a secret for you. When you go on a show like that and you're a comedian, when you're sitting down, you're really doing a stand-up sitting down.
Right.
If you're Johnny Mathis or some famous contemporary actor or singer, you tell a funny story about your dog. You can't do that. You got to go there packed. He was the greatest, Johnny, and he certainly appears in the movie enough.
Yeah,
he was great. When you did your work and you prepared, he laughed you up. Sometimes only he and the band were the ones laughing, but he was great. I really loved him professionally. He was a great guy.
Right. I mean, even Jimmy Stewart knew that when you came on Johnny Carson's show, you better have something, and he always had a poem about his dog or something. So he knew the trick, right? Robert Klein, thank you so much for the memories. Thank you so much for your contributions to this great culture of ours, buddy. And honestly, congratulations on a fantastic career and a continuing one at that. And we'll make sure we hit the Robert Klein Still Can't Stop His Leg documentary, and really appreciate you spending as much time as you've been able to spend with us.
All right, starting Friday night. I appreciate the plug, Jamie. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Great talking to you, and thank you.
Thanks.
Robert Klein, Still Can't Stop His Leg, is going to be featured on Starz, which is a cable channel. You have to subscribe to it.
Yes.
But it's tomorrow night, 9 o'clock on Starz. I'd never actually heard of Starz.
Yeah.
And didn't care at all about it. I just wanted to interview Robert Klein. This is always
I've heard
fun.
of Stars. I just don't have Stars.
Right, exactly. But the documentary apparently is really cool because it's got a bunch of the different comedians on there who have been influenced by him. And, you know, even though he did have commentary on the Watergate scandal at the time, and he did some political humor, but he generally, if he does talk politics, it's not in the vein that these other people do. You're not going to hear him take these gratuitous shots at politicians. Doesn't matter whether it's Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. It's kind of refreshing to have somebody who's solely focused on their craft and their art. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, and I didn't even ask him. I'm sure that that was a round robin thing, you know, where you have a bunch of different people interviewing him. He's sitting there and he's, you know, he had his harmonica, obviously. He's sitting there and he's just taking everybody from all different, you know, hi, this is Bill from Cleveland, Ohio. How you doing, Robert Klein? What do you think about the current state of politics to Donald Trump? Because everybody wants, you know, kind of him to take a shot at Trump or whatever. I wasn't going to even go there with him because there's so much more to talk about regarding his life. And, you know, back in those times, people were just kind of focused on entertainment.
Sure.
They weren't really as much focused on trying to gain some political mobility with a certain segment of their audience or whatever. I'm not saying I don't want these people to have their personal opinions, but nonetheless, it's kind of refreshing to have him on. Robert Klein, all the way back to 1975. Wow.
Oh, jeez.
Was a lot more entertaining than watching this thing on cable on MSNBC. See if you can decipher what's going on here. Matt Schlapp and Jason Johnson. So we're going to go from a nice little throwback to the 70s and with Robert Klein and life was simple and people smoked on airplanes to MSNBC and two people arguing over this April Ryan, who has now become some kind of cause celeb because she's a victim of Sean Spicer. I can't keep up with that, but yeah, here you go. Listen to
I
this.
think that was a moment where he pushed back and got feisty with a reporter who he has a very good rapport with on most days.
So I want to walk a fine line because I spent years sitting in that briefing room.
Tell other people what racism is. Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Because you don't.
But that's an easy argument. You don't get to tell other people what racism is. That pretty much blocks you out, doesn't it?
Jeez.
I love that argument. But that was Matt Schlapp, who was basically saying, look, just because Sean Spicer doesn't kiss April Ryan's rear end doesn't mean somehow that he's a racist. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you know, this idea, I mean, this kind of race-baiting bullying that's going on around here is crazy. But April Ryan's a perfect example of that. So, yeah, it deteriorates.
You don't know what
This has nothing to do.
Okay.
You don't need to raise your voice because that's the kind of racism I'm talking about. You just raised your voice at someone who's simply disagreeing with you. You have interrupted me throughout.
You have raised your voice at me. You should resign. You hath raised your voice at me. You racist? Yeah. So you watched the whole thing,
I did watch it, yes. I watched that, and then I watched Sean Spicer's interview, and I will rewatch the April Ryan thing because I'm just trying to get an idea of why this happened. Why would someone throw out the race card when we just saw Sean Spicer and Acosta get into a battle that was just as similar as this?
Yeah,
the same concept.
Yeah.
It's not a race card. They're supposed to get into heated debates.
Yeah. And she, by the way, if you look at the entire exchange between those two, April Ryan and Sean Spicer, the minute he calls on her, she goes, "You seem to be in a bad mood." It's like, oh God, here we go. And Spicer didn't say anything to her at that point. He didn't get into it, but he pushed back. And just because she's like the only, apparently she's with the Urban Radio Network or something, and because they're the only black urban radio network or whatever it is at the thing, that she should be treated like some kind of royalty there. And it's just, I wish she herself would throw water on this instead of trying to exploit this, because it really does demean real racism and real hate and real abuse, don't you think? 969-9797, 866-455-9797.